Mick Ebeling was named by Fortune magazine as one of the top 50 world's greatest leaders. He was honored by Muhammad Ali Humanitarian of the Year Award and is one of the only people ever to be recognized as a 3-time recipient of Time's Best Invention of the Year. Mick is also groundbreaking innovator, entrepreneur, and humanitarian. As the founder of Not Impossible Labs, his approach of commit and then figure it out is the mindset that fuels Not Impossible Labs, where innovation, technology, and story come together to push boundaries and address critical human needs. Through his work, Mick continues to inspire, educate, and empower individuals, organizations, and communities to drive action and make the impossible not impossible. But Mick tells everyone he just likes to invent solutions that help people. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big leap. Welcome to my friend Mick Ebeling.
Please stay. I want you, I need you, oh God. Don't take these beautiful things that
What's
I've
up?
got.
What's up? What's up? How are you guys? I usually don't come on stage to the following the wobble 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 dance afterwards, so this is good. This is special. Where you guys at? Where are you guys from? Where's most of the people from? Like, is it all over? Florida. All right. Where else? All right. Here we go this way. I'm gonna go this way. Here. Go ahead. L.A. England. Nice. New York. Nice. Orange County. Where? Bay Area. Go Warriors. Texas, nice. Florida, Ohio. Florida, nice. LA, Texas. Australia, nice. Are you the furthest person traveled here? Morocco. Love Morocco. Love Morocco. Dubai. Oh, wow. Okay, so where's the furthest traveled? Geography. Is it yeah, Dubai? Does Dubai get the award? Awesome. Well, super excited to be here, you guys. How many of you guys know about Not Impossible? Anybody know anything about Not Impossible? Sweet. I can make stuff up for the next hour then. You guys are not going to know the difference then. This is great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you guys through why the heck I'm up here, what we do, how we do it, and then Dr. Bill's going to come up and we're going to talk for a little bit. If you guys have some questions, you can fire them away. Cool? All right. Have you guys heard of this thing called sliding doors? Yeah, a couple of people are nodding their heads. Sliding doors is this, I don't know what to call it. It's like this mentality of if you look back at your life, you can see so many things happen because you just chose to go through a door, right? Like I would say Leap is one of those sliding doors for you guys, that you chose to be here, and this is going to be very instrumental about the next door that opens for you, right? So if you think about, different people's lives, maybe where you go to school, or maybe a trip that you went on, or maybe a party that you went to and then you met someone there, or what school you end up going to, what job you take, like whatever those things, there's these things that happen in your life and you look back and you reflect when you get older and you're like, oh my God, look, that's the path that I took. So a sliding door moment for me, the moment that led me to being up on stage here is because of this thing called date night. And date night is this thing that married couples do that they try to keep a little romance going in their life, right? They try to keep it fresh. They try to keep it fun. So my wife and I would schedule date nights, and one of us would be in charge, and then the other one would go, and then the next time my wife would be in charge. And so this particular date night, I was in charge of it. And so I planned this super I'm a hopeless romantic, right? So there was the romantic, elaborate date down to like the most minute detail. You know what it was called? It was called Dinner and a Movie, right? It wasn't so romantic. So we're getting ready to go out the door, and I live in Venice Beach, just down the way. Anybody here from Venice? Yeah? Venice? Can you claim Venice? Yeah, my family lives there. Nice. Awesome. What street? Nice. All right, I know exactly where that is. Amazing. So, Venice? Nice. Gondoliers represent. I love it. I love it. So we're getting ready to go out the door, and a friend of mine comes in. And I have this friend. You guys probably have a friend like this. Do you guys have a friend who's like really loud? Yeah, they're just like so I have a friend named Ubi. And Ubi, he's this really, really big guy. But we always call him 300 pounds of Puerto Rican party. Because if he shows up, he is just this big, loud, happy, just gregarious, outgoing Puerto Rican guy who's just like, when he walks in the door, it's on. It doesn't matter the time of the day, doesn't matter the place, like it's game on. So we're getting ready to go out the door, and he walks in, and he throws the doors open, he's like, hey, what's happening? And we're like, Ubi, what's up, man? He's like, not much. And he stops, he goes, you guys are all dressed up. What's going on? I said, oh, it's date night. And he went, what are we doing for date night? And I was like, uh-oh, my date with my wife just went my date with my wife and Ubi now. So it's three of us are going on a date. And I said, oh, we're going to dinner and a movie. And he went, oh man, why are married people so lame? And I go, I know, I knew exactly what was going to happen. He goes, you know what, cancel your plans. I'm in charge of date night. I'm taking over date night. So we canceled our plans. We hopped in the back of, he had an old International Scout, and we went driving away to this, and I didn't know where we were going. We pulled into this parking lot, and I said, Oobs, what's going on? I don't know what we're doing. What are we doing tonight? He goes, oh, we're going to a gallery event. And look, sometimes gallery events are cool, but sometimes they're lame, right? And I'm like, oh. And he goes, no. He goes, I can tell you're worried it's going to be lame. Don't worry, it's not lame. Just trust me. So we walk in, and I was expecting this kind of like it was going to be a quiet event, and people were going to be looking at art, and it was going to be kind of like one of those talking in like a golf voice kind of thing. It was nothing like that. There was loud music playing. There was people like hugging and high-fiving, and it felt way more like a family reunion than it did a boring gallery event. I was like, dang, all right, this is kind of cool. So my wife and I did a lap, and we came back, and we found Ubi, and we're like, oops, this is amazing. This is incredible. And he said, see, I told you. And I said, hey, I'd love to meet the artist. Can we meet the artist? And he goes, you can't meet the artist. And I said, why not? He said, because the artist's name is Tony Tempt Kwan, and he has ALS. He has Lou Gehrig's disease. Do you guys know what that is? Okay, so Lou Gehrig's disease is a disease. It's a horrible disease that renders you completely paralyzed. And think of it as kind of like the blob. It starts in your toes, and it slowly, the way that you know that you have it is all of a sudden you'll be walking and you'll kind of like trip and fall, and all of a sudden it's harder for you to walk, and then you can't walk at all, and then you can't move, and then it's like this slow creeping paralysis that takes over your entire body, and eventually you literally cannot move. The only thing you can do is blink your eyes. And you have to be put on a respirator, and it's a really, really gnarly disease. I'm glad a lot of you guys don't know what it is, because it's pretty bad. So he said, you can't meet him because he has ALS, and this event is his family and friends who have come together to try and pay for his hospital bills. This is his community who have come together to try and, just support him, because it's really expensive if you've got it. And I was like, all right, that makes sense. That makes sense. And so the whole vibe of the room, the whole like family kind of feel, I was like, all right, that's why it felt the way it is, because it was his community coming together to try to support him. So my wife and I ended up meeting his father and brother, who were the stewards, the people in charge of the Tempt One Foundation, the people who are putting on the event. We met some of his friends. We'd never done this before, but we bought some of the art that was there, like this cool little spray paint can, because he was, a heralded graffiti artist. He was like one of the, at the time before his, he was probably one of the foremost West Coast graffiti artists in the nation, and he was very much respected. So there we go. It was a lovely night, and we went home. And that was in the springtime. Well, there's this thing that at the time I was a producer, so I had a production company. Bill, are these guys meeting producers? Well, you're meeting your friend later, Bill, right? The guy, the actress or actor, actress. So production, especially in Los Angeles, when you say the word production, it means you put things on a screen, right? Could be small screen, could be big screens, but that's a production. So I had a production company. And what my production company would do is the same thing that many people do every year, is that they will go to their best clients, their best ad agencies, their best movie studios, and they'll give them a gift. They'll give them a bottle of wine or tickets to a Lakers game or something like that. But the understanding is, and it's kind of a funny thing, I give you, so say you're my client, I'll give you a $100 bottle of wine, But kind of the understanding is now you're supposed to give me millions of dollars of business. Does that sound like an even trade? Right? But it's this thing that we do, right? And my wife's like, why do we always do this? Nobody remembers who gives who what. No one's going to give a $100 bond and give you millions of dollars of business. She's like, why don't we instead make a donation back to that artist that we met back in the springtime? So that's what we did. So we decided to, instead of giving a bunch of bottles of wine away, we decided to make a donation. So I sat down after the holidays with the brother and father of Tempt at this old diner in downtown LA called The Pantry. And you guys remember The Pantry? No, they just closed, but anyway, good place. So we sat down and I sat across from them. We chatted for a second and I eventually reached into my bag and I slid the check across the table and said, hey, on behalf of my company would like to make this donation to the Tempt One Foundation. And they looked at the check and said, oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. And then we chatted for a little bit longer and I said, hey, can I ask you a question? They said, yeah, shoot. I said, what are you going to use the money for? And his brother was seated to my left. I was across the table. His brother was to his left, the father to the right. And his brother, it felt like he was leaping across the table. And he said, I just want to talk to my brother again. I just want to be able to communicate with him. And I was like, wait a second. Forgive me because I don't have anybody in my family with total paralysis or ALS. But you guys know who Stephen Hawking is? So he had ALS. So Stephen Hawking, and he was a special case, but he had this thing called a Stephen Hawking. I don't know what the actual device was. I called it the Stephen Hawking device. And it basically allowed him to move his eyes back and forth, and then a camera would track his pupils, and that would allow him to move a cursor on the screen. And then he had what's called residual limb movement. He had the ability to kind of like move his fingers a little bit, which is very uncommon with ALS. And that was essentially the clicking of the mouse, right? So he would move his eyes, that would move the cursor, and then he would go like that, he would move that, and that would select letters. And then he would type things. So if I wanted to say hi leap, I would go move my eyes to H, click, move my eyes to I, click. And then it would say, and then a robot voice would say hi leap, right? So that's kind of how this thing worked. And so I said to him, like, what do you mean you want to talk to him? Don't you have one of those Stephen Hawking machines? And they were like, dude, those things are expensive. We don't have the money to get one of those things. You need either money or insurance. And I was like, well, then how do you talk to your brother? He said, we talk through a piece of paper. We have a piece of paper with the alphabet on it. We hold it up, we run our finger along it, and when my finger gets to a letter that my brother wants, he blinks. So you can see kind of how that works. So eyes are moving, blink, write it down. Finger moving, blink, write it down. And that's how we communicate. Like, does that sound like an efficient way to communicate? Super, takes a long time. It's just really problematic. So I was like, okay, this is crazy, right? This is absurd that I'm staring at a guy who lives 13 miles, lives in downtown LA, lives in Alhambra, in the hospital, and he can't talk to his father or his brother because he's got this disease. And I know for a fact in that hospital there's other people who had that Stephen Hawking device because they had insurance and they had money, and they didn't have money or insurance. And I'm like, that's not right. That's not right. The world shouldn't work that way. So I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. I kind of gathered myself up a little bit. I said, I'm going to get you one of those Stephen Hawking devices. And it was really cute. It was really nice because they stared at me with these very, very kind eyes, and they looked at each other, and they kind of tilted their head a little bit, and they looked back at me, and they looked down at the check that I had put in front of them, and they said, no, you're not. You didn't give us enough money to get one of those devices. And I was like, guys, I'm a producer. I make people do stuff they shouldn't do all the time. Like, that's what I do, is I figure out how to, bob and weave and break the systems. Like, I'm going to get you one of those devices. And his brother was like, no, are you serious? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, this is going to be amazing. We're going to be able to talk to our brother again, and it's going to just change how we do things. And the father was kind of tearing up in his eyes. And I got totally caught up in the moment because I'm staring at a brother and a father. I'm a father to boys. I have a brother. And I got caught up in the moment. And I said, and you know what else we're going to do? And they said, what? I said, well, if there's a device that allows you to move your eyes back and forth, and that moves this cursor on the screen, and then through blinking or some kind of residual limb movement, you can select letters. Why don't we figure out how to decouple those actions and make it so that as you move your eyes back and forth, that movement of the cursor is drawing. Let's make it the movement of a paintbrush or a piece of graphite or a spray paint can, but let's make it so that when he moves his eyes, your brother can draw again. And they said, you can do that? And I said, and they thought that dumb look was a yes. They were like, this is amazing. And they got all fired up and they walked out the door. And a little bit later, I said, guys, I'll be in touch. And the second they walked out the door, I was like, what did you just commit to? Because I had no idea how to do that. I had no clue how to do that. But what I was struck by on that day is now a permanent part of how we operate at Non-Impossible Labs. Is that when you see something that's wrong in the world, when you see something you say, that's not right, the world shouldn't work that way, that you commit, then you figure out how the heck you're going to pull it off. Right? So here we go. I started to call people. I started to network with people. I started to research stuff. And I invited all these people into my house. We started to hack and we started to program. And we came up with this thing called the iWriter, which is a cheap pair of sunglasses from the Venice Beach Boardwalk where I live. We took the glasses and then we knocked the lenses out of the front. And then we duct tape a wire around to the side, put that to the front, took an old web camera, took the guts out, focused that back on the pupil, and then wrote code so that you could plug it into the computer. So as you wore this device, as you move your eyes back and forth, that was tracking your pupil for the movement of the screen. And so we were working. So much stuff didn't work. It failed, but we kind of it was like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Eventually we got it to work. And on the last night before everyone flew out to go back home, with his family and friends gathered downstairs at the hospital, the artist drew again for the first time. And it was, thank you. It was amazing, right? His family, my brother was there, my family was there, his friends and family were there. By the way, this Temp came from a really, really tough part of town, right? He had a lot of friends that were in gangs and things like that, and he had chosen a different path. He had chosen to kind of get out of that path and use his art to help to get kids out of gangs. And so a lot of his friends came from that space. These big, just mean-looking dude crying and hugging. It was just this beautiful, beautiful moment, right? And then we went home because we'd done it, and everybody was going to fly back home. And our plan was you guys know what open source is? Open source is when you take something and you basically take the code and you post it online so that anybody would have access to it, so anybody could use it for free. We basically were going to give this away for free. So our plan was to post this online so anybody else could have it. So we posted it, and then we were just going to go back to our day jobs. And then we woke up. We kind of woke up one day, and it was Time Magazine's top 50 inventions. All of a sudden, all this press and publicity and podcasts and interviews started coming in, calling it one of the best health inventions of our time. I always wanted to give a TED Talk. I didn't know what the heck I would talk about. Now I started to do TED Talks. It's now part of the permanent collection at the MoMA in New York City. And we're like, what is happening right now? And so it made me kind of take a step back and go, well, maybe this is what I should do. Maybe my production thing, which I was loving, but maybe this whole technology to help people, this is what I should do. And so I was thinking about it. I was praying about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it, like, should I do this or should I do that? And finally I was like, dude, just make a decision. So I made the decision, and my decision was just stick with your day job. Stick with what you know how to do. Don't worry about this technology to help people think. Just, give it away to people, but just stick with being a producer. I made that decision, and then I opened up my laptop. The first email that I got was from the artist, and the email said, that's the first time I've drawn anything for 7 years. I feel like I've been held underwater, and someone finally reached down and pulled my head up so I could take a breath. If you're thinking about doing and not doing something, and some dude sent you an email like that, do you really have a choice anymore, right? And that was the launch of Non-Impossible Labs. And now, it's now been over a decade, 15 years of looking at things that are impossible and figuring out how they transition from impossible to not impossible. And the way that we do it is through this tool called Help One, Help Many. And what that means is this. If I ask you guys, I want you to go do something amazing for the world, it could be like, where do I start? But if I ask you to go out and help one person, is that easier? Is that a little easier? Yeah, it's easier for you to kind of like wrap your arms around that. So that's really the premise of what we do is we don't try to tackle these massive issues. We try to tackle an issue for one person, and if that works like it did for Tempt, then we can kind of push it out to other people. All right, make sense? All right. So then I met this guy, I got exposed to this guy named Dr. Tom. Dr. Tom is this doctor in this place called the Nuba Mountains, which is in Sudan. Anyone know where Sudan is? It's a tough one. Yeah? A couple people? I know you guys do, right? Sudan is this country that's wedged between Ethiopia and Kenya, and it is a really, really difficult part of the world. It's completely war-torn, and this doctor has to do, like, save people's lives every day with nothing. He's got, like, you could see his hospital room. He's got nothing to do. And so I was reading this article, and it talked about the one thing he hates to do is to perform amputations, like fix people's arms. And so I'm like, why is this guy doing that? So what I realized is that when I researched it, is that the government was bombing the people of the Nuba Mountains where he worked. He was bombing them all the time, like dropping bombs, and they had these 55-gallon drums filled with jet fuel and shrapnel. They would roll them out of the back of planes, they would hit the ground, and it would spray shrapnel over, and that's one of the things that would rip people's arms off, and that's why Dr. Tom was having to do so many amputations. And I was like, that's crazy. And the article talked about one boy. He was how old are most of the people in this room right now? 15 to 25. Okay, 15 to 25. All right, so check this out. There's a boy named Daniel who Dr. Tom had to save his life. And he was out in the middle of this field. He was a shepherd, right? He was out tending his family's goats and cows. He heard the bombers come. He didn't have any place to run or hide. So he went and he got behind a tree. And he got behind the tree and he wrapped his arms around a tree like this. And when the bomb went off not far from where he was, the tree, because he had the good sense to get behind the tree protected his body from the blast. But because his arms were on the other side, it blew off his arms. You guys, he's 14. He's not much older than a lot of you guys in this room. And my 14-year-old was asleep like 30 feet from where I was reading this article. It was late at night. And the first thing that this kid said, now think about this. Imagine you losing your arms. Imagine having them blown off and you wake up and you're now a double amputee. The first thing this kid said when he woke up was like, not poor me, not I'm never going to throw a ball, not I'm not going to be able to feed myself. The first thing he said is, I wish I could die because now I'm going to be such a burden to my family. And I was like, that's crazy. So it's like, I don't know how. I woke up, told my wife, here we go, commit to figure it out. So invited all these people to my house. We started to hack. We started to program. We started to come up with all kinds of different solutions. I like to show this one. This is a friend of ours right here. Her name is Sarah Heron. She does not have a left arm. We made her a right arm. You can laugh. It was awkward. It was super awkward, right? She came in and she was like, hey, Mick, let's... Dumbass, she didn't remember you didn't see what arm I was missing. But eventually we figured it out, and I flew into the refugee camp. And that's not the plane, obviously. I flew on a different plane. That was on the side of the road. But on November 11th, which was 4 months to the day that I went out to dinner with that friend of mine, and he told me about Dr. Tom, and I went home and researched him and found out about Daniel, this happened.
There's this thing in me that loves to see things that are supposed to not be done.
Daniel is just one of 50,000 amputees left in the wake of the bloodiest war Africa has ever known. We flew into an active war zone in Sudan with 3D printers, laptops, spools of plastic, and the goal to build Daniel an arm.
You ready?
The concept of Project Daniel was hatched on July 11th. And on November 11th, Daniel fed himself for the first time in 2 years. But it's never about just one person. If we could teach the locals to do it themselves, then Project Daniel could live on long after we left. And it did.
Thank you, guys. So this taught us so much. It was an amazing project. It was amazing to meet Daniel. We've kind of almost adopted Daniel and his brother. But it talked a little bit for us. It really taught us about this whole concept of impossible. And we'll talk about this a little bit in the Q&A, but this is like the main thing I want you guys to come away. If you only come away with one thing today, this is what I want you to come away with. I want you to name something, think about this, name something that's possible today. Think about what you're wearing. Think about what you're riding with. Think about how you got here. Think about anything. Like look to your left, look to your right, look up, look down. Name something that's possible today that wasn't impossible before it became possible. Think about that. Every single thing that surrounds us, from the glasses you're wearing, the clothes you're wearing, the things you're riding with, that however you got here, at one point that didn't exist. Until when? Until someone got tired of having to walk, and so they invented the wheel, and now they could get there faster. Or they figured out how to ride on a horse, or they figured out how to write. Instead of writing in dirt, they decided to put some carbon together, and then a writing or a pen or whatever it is. Every single thing that surrounds us that's possible today wasn't possible first. So if that's the case, if every single thing that's possible today wasn't possible first, then doesn't that mean that everything that's impossible today, if you base it on the past, if you base it on stats, if you base it on history, that everything that's impossible today is on that same path of going from impossible to what? Well, that was lame. All right, let's try it again. I'm going to ask a question, then you guys. Everything that's impossible today is on that same path of going from impossible to what? Possible. Do you guys feel that, though? Like, that's just, it's not all ooga booga. It's not like a theory. It's just history. It's just stats. It's just data. You can't agree or disagree with it. It's fact. So my thing I want to tell you guys is this, is that when you encounter things in your life that are impossible, don't use that word. Don't use that word. It might be difficult, it might be hard, it might be challenging, but eventually it's going to become possible. And if you don't do it, someone else is going to. So why not you? If it's going to happen, how come you can't be that person? Right? Impossible is a fallacy. It's a temporary state that's going to transition. Is it going to happen this month? Maybe. This year? Maybe. 10 years? 20 years? All you need to know is it's going to happen. And the question I want you guys to kind of think about is, why not you? What role can you play in making a transition? Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right. We've worked on a bunch of stuff. We helped a blind skateboarder living in Venice Beach, of course. Like, the skateboarding is a really important part of my life. But we helped create a tool called a sound array that made it. So check out the way the sound array works. So let's say this is the sound array, right? That's that red thing right there. And all the speakers are right here, okay? So let's say this was right here. Everybody right here could hear the sound coming from those speakers. You couldn't and you couldn't. The way that sound works is if a single speaker is here, you guys can hear it and you guys can hear it. As you line multiple speakers next to each other, it takes the field of sound and it focuses it in a line, which isn't that crazy? We didn't invent that. That's just science, right? So we built this device so that Justin could position it around a skate park. So as he was skating, he'd be skating. There's the sound array. He would skate by it. He could hear it. Now he couldn't hear it. So we created audio delineations around the skate park so that he could see with his ears, he could see the way the skate park worked. And we took it out, and guess what? It worked. This guy's absolutely crushing right now. You can follow him on his social media. Follow him on his Instagram. It's Justin Bishop. But he's out there absolutely ripping. He's absolutely incredible. Any musicians in this room? There's got to be some musicians. Okay. How do we hear? Do you guys know how hearing works? Of course you do, right? What happens? Sound comes through the air, and it goes through these little 2 holes in the side of your head. And then what happens? It goes and it hits the eardrum, and then it sends a signal to the where? Where does it go from the eardrum? The brain, right? So I went to a concert with all deaf people, and all of the deaf people had their hands on the speakers. They didn't have shoes. They were holding balls and balloons. And you know why they were doing that? Any guesses? The vibrations, exactly. Because they can't feel, their eardrums weren't working. Does anybody have any friends who are deaf? Family members or friends? Okay. So their eardrums aren't working, but last time I checked, their brains work, right? So what they were doing is they chose an alternate path to receive the vibrations, and they chose it through their feet, through their hands, feeling the vibration so they could watch the DJ, they could watch the concert, and they could feel those vibrations. And I was like, well, wait a second. If that's the way that we hear, why don't we just figure out a way to craft music so that the people who are deaf could experience the music, but in a more precise way than if they're just putting their hands on the speakers, they're just going to feel the bass, boom, boom, boom. What if we made it so that it could hit at different points on their body, so that the guitars you could feel on the wrists, the drums they could feel on their ankles, the base of your spine, the vocals here? What if we separated those parts out into vibrations and built wearables so they could hear through their skin? And so that's what we built. So we built some wearables that did just that, and we took it out to the deaf community. We went to South by Southwest, this big festival in Austin, and we unveiled it. And you can see some of the wristbands, the ankle bands, and we took it out to them, and guess what? They threatened us. They threatened us, and they said, we're not giving this back to you. We're keeping this thing. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And so we came back home, and we were like, yes, we figured it out. Now deaf people can feel music through their skin in this really precise way. The skin is the eardrum. But put your hands up if you know someone who's deaf. Okay, put your hands way up so I can see. Okay, so what's that? Maybe 10 people, 12 people? How many people are in this room right now, Bill? 400 people. So there's 12 people out of 400. We came back to LA, and we didn't know that many deaf people. We ran out of deaf people to test it on. So we started testing it on people who could hear. And we tested it out on this guy. You guys know who this guy is? So we put the Music Not Impossible on him, and this is what he said.
All right, you just experienced Music Not Impossible for the first time. What did it do to the whole music experience for you?
I felt the future.
I was sitting in the room, and he goes, I felt the future. And I'm like, oh my God, please tell me I'm recording this right now. Please don't do a dad move where you got the phone up, but you're not actually recording right now. I was like, he felt the future. And I'm like, oh my God. Not only did we figure out a way for the deaf to experience music, but now if you can hear, this is now a way for you to hear or experience music and audio twice. Once through your ears and a second through the vibrations. So your brain is getting hit twice with the same signal. This can make it so that the deaf and the hearing can all experience music in this shared way. We called it the end of audio segregation, of music segregation. So this thing has gone out. It's won Time Magazine's top invention last year, which is, I think Dr. Bill said this is our third time winning this thing. So we were stoked. We made this thing. We started going out. We've been doing festivals all around the world. But then a friend of ours said, hey, do me a favor. Send me those wristbands because And this is what our friend looks like. He's a scientist at a leading hospital in New York. And he said, do me a favor. A friend of mine's father is a famous jazz pianist. The problem is, he's got Parkinson's. You guys know what Parkinson's is?
And try and tap your fingers now for me.
Parkinson's is a disease. It affects you in different ways, but sometimes it makes your hands shake. So you can see how difficult it is for him to do this. He was a famous jazz pianist. Like, he played with the greats, but he can't play the piano anymore because his hand shakes like this, and you can't play the piano if you're doing that. And we're like, all right, we got to do something. So he said, send me your wristbands. I have been doing some research about vibration. So we sent him the wristbands. We put it on him.
No.
You got light?
Yep, this is perfect. Tap each finger.
It stopped his tremors. And we were like, hang on. We just wanted to figure out a way for the deaf to experience music, and now we accidentally figured out a way to stop Parkinson's tremors? And this is the story of Joe.
When I'm lying in bed, sometimes I think about those performances, how good they were, how bad they were. I just fell out of bed and couldn't walk.
And then we went to the doctor and she did the test and she said, you got Parkinson's, early Parkinson's.
You just get tired of fighting it.
When you stopped playing music, did you ever dream about it at night?
Absolutely. I mean, this is my life. Well, there it is. I don't understand it. The hand stopped shaking. It's just incredible. It's the first time that I've ever had anything that's encouraging.
So that's something that we were so excited when that happened. So if you guys want to check out any of the other stuff that we're working on, check us out online. We have, just go to Not Impossible Labs and you can see what we're up to. But why do we pull all this stuff off? You guys ready? This is like the big reveal. This is like the big, drum roll, please. This is why we pull all this stuff off. Here it goes. Thank you. It's because we shouldn't. We shouldn't pull this stuff off. We don't have the degrees or the diplomas or the credentials or anything that says that you should be able to pull this off. The reason that we're able to do this, and I write about this in my book, the reason we're able to do this is because of this thing called beautiful, limitless naivete. No one told us we can't do it. So we just go do it. We just see it and we're like, that's a problem. That world shouldn't exist that way. We got to do something. And we ignore all the rules and status quos that people say, oh, you have to do it this way or you can't do it that way. We say, no, bugger that. We're not going to pay any attention to that. And then we just find our one person that we want to help. We don't start by trying to solve it for the whole world. We start by trying to solve for one person. And then we just say, let's go. Let's do this. So I want to leave you guys with this quote, which is one of my favorite quotes in the world, which is, refuse to die until you've won some victory for humanity. Refuse to die. Refuse to die until you've done something for the world. So as you guys are contemplating, I love looking at the agenda and the stuff you guys are working about, the thing I'd love for you to kind of think about, especially at 15 to 24 years old right now, think about the victory that you want to have and that you want to leave the world with. Like what you guys have the potential to do anything in the world that you want to do. What's the victory that you want to leave? What's the story that people are going to tell about you? And if you're in this room right now, can we just say this? If you're in this room right now, that we're blessed. Is that fair? Did anybody worry about eating today? No, you might have been hungry, but no one worried about eating. Did anyone worry about that, if they got sick, they, wouldn't be able to go to the hospital or anything like that? No. If we can say that we don't have to worry, are you guys all going to sleep tonight? You guys are going to sleep in a tent on the street, on the side of the road someplace? No. So we don't have to worry about going to the doctor or eating or sleeping. then we're lucky, we're blessed. So how are we going to use the blessing that we got in our lives? So in that whole spirit that I told you guys about helping one person and using that as a way to then go help many people, the question I'd love for you guys to talk about, think about in your life is, all right, who is your one? What if, you said 400 people in the room right now? What happens, math question, what happens when 400 people go out and go back to wherever you live and help one person? How many people get helped? What'd you say? Yeah, you better talk quiet. What number did you say? No! Who said 400? Oh, you guys. No, you don't go out and help one person and then you're like, all right, I'm done. See ya. I'm out. You do it and you're like, oh my God, that was easy. I'm going to do it again. And then 400 turns to 800. And then one of your friends see and you're like, well, he can do it. If she can do it, I can do it too. And then that doubles. And then that doubles. That's how we change the world, you guys. When we start by just starting with one person, and then we're like, okay, here we go, let's do it again. And then it starts to grow from there. So the question I want to ask you guys to think about is, who is your one? Or, with the stories I told you today, who's your Daniel? Who's your Daniel? Thank you, guys.
All right, let's give it up for Mick. You know, he and I did not talk about, you can now see, about what he was going to, I've seen his presentation before, but one of the things that you're going to see this week is that successful people do the same things over and over and over again. And that's what we want you guys to get away from Leap with. You know, what did I talk about yesterday about life-defining moments? He just said it in a little bit different way. You will have life-defining moments that will happen in your life that will literally change the trajectory of your life forever. Look for them, you know? Yesterday, I said, if you leave this earth without having made it a better place, shame on you. He just said the same thing, you know? When I started Discus Dental, my biggest break was getting on ABC's Extreme Makeover. And I told you, I stunk on TV. They should have fired me. But what did I do? I went and I learned how to do it. So just like Mick, when he sees a problem, he educates himself. He challenges. And, you know, for guys like him and like me, the biggest incentive you can ever say to me is you can't do that. Because yes, I can, right? And I want you guys to have that mindset. You know, when you run into something that you don't know how to solve, that's just the beginning of the story, not the end. That's not the time where you throw in the towel and walk away. That's the time where you say, okay, what do I need? Do you think that when I started Discus Dental, and our first year we did 2 million, our second year we did 4 million, our next year we did 18 million, I had no idea how to run a business. I knew how to drill teeth really well. What did I do? I went back to school. I worked all day long as a dentist, and then I went to UCLA extension courses and I took accounting and I took business because I knew that if I wanted to provide a great income for me and my family, I needed to learn more. So I want you guys to really challenge yourselves in life and figure out what's that next thing that you need to learn and able to help somebody throw a baseball, to help somebody, you know, paint a picture or whatever it is. I mean, you guys give them another big round of applause.
Now, I want to add something. I want to add something to what Bill just said. You know, the one thing that he and I share, and the one thing that every single successful person that you've read about or heard about can share, you know what it is? They were totally scared. They were scared out of their minds. And they thought, have you guys heard of the thing called the fraud complex or imposter syndrome? Have you heard of that before? Every single person that you know who's successful has that. They're like, I can't do this. I can't do this. But you know what the difference is? They don't let that stop them. They actually treat that as a chip on their shoulder to drive them forward. So whatever you guys decide to do, if you can walk away with two things. Remember, what was the first thing I said to you guys? Everything that's impossible today is on the trajectory of going from impossible to what? Possible. Okay. So every time you encounter something that someone says impossible, I want you to go like this. Not, right? No, that's not the case. It's right now, but it's not forever. The second thing is, when you experience fear, when you're scared for trying to get into a school or trying to get a job or, oh my God, trying to invent something or start a business or do something like that, and you're scared and you're saying to yourself, you're staying up at night and you're like, I can't do this and I don't have a degree or I can't do this. I want you to know that every single successful person that you've ever read about or heard about had that exact same feeling. So you're in the right company. And that, when you go out into the pool further than where your feet can touch, and you're kind of floating and doing like that, and you're like, you can't see the bottom, that's where brilliance happens. That's where great things happen. So when you're afraid, be like, oh, that loud dude from Venice Beach that I heard back in Malibu back in the day, he told me I was gonna be scared. I'm scared. Perfect. Perfect. You're in exactly the right place. Doesn't mean you're gonna succeed. It doesn't mean you're gonna hit a home run every single time. No. I've closed 2 companies that failed. The only difference is, all right, let's do it again. And guess what? I didn't make those same mistakes again. So just because you fail once, I actually just hired a guy who's now running one of my companies. Do you know why I hired him? Because the last company that he started, he had to close. He failed. And he said, why do you want to hire me? And I'm like, because I know that you know how hard it is. And when you start to smell or see those things that remind you of the mistakes you made last time, you won't make those mistakes again. And now the business that he's running for me, it delivers 50,000 grocery orders to people who can't afford groceries a month right now. And I know we're not going to fail because he's failed before. So when failure starts to creep up on him like this, he's going to be like, oh, hell no. And he's going to figure out how to battle it back. That make sense?
Right. What did I teach you yesterday? It's not failure, it's what? Practice. It's practice.
So true.
Don't look at the things that you've done in life that weren't successful as failure. Look at it as practice and then do it better and better and better. You know, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I'm only 66, okay? Let me just give you a brief summary of what happened in my life. When I was your age, when I was a kid, we only had black and white TV. And it was this big. It was this little tiny thing. Then later on, we got color TV. And then one of the greatest inventions in the world, a remote control. Because before, every time we watched TV, think about it, we had to walk up to the TV and change it, you know?
Do you guys know what a TV is? Because TV, like no one knew, do they even have TVs anymore?
We didn't have cell phones. Imagine this. I didn't have a cell phone until after I graduated dental school. We didn't have computers. When I was in high school and I had to type papers, I had to type it on a manual typewriter. We didn't even have electric typewriters. And if you made a mistake, you had to paint that whiteout stuff on there and then redo it. And if you made a big mistake, you had to retype the whole report. You know, navigation systems, it was a joke. We would sit in the car with a thing called a Thomas guide and try and figure out how to drive places. I mean, everybody just would go to gas stations and ask for directions, and the people that work in gas stations barely spoke English, so that was never good. I mean, it was a completely different world. But you know, There was a day that I went to a dental convention and I saw this whitening product and I thought, this is a gold mine. And we literally turned a business from zero, with zero investors, with zero money. I was so poor, I started my company by taking $20,000 out on my Visa card as a loan, and we grew it from zero to $1.3 billion in sales from nothing. And we beat all the biggest companies, Procter & Gamble, Colgate, all of them. Why? Because I hired better people, smarter people. And we were little and nimble, and we could navigate. When Procter & Gamble has to make a decision, it goes through this board and then that board, and then that. By the time they did that, we already outsold them. We ate them for lunch. We created products we called category killers. That means your product is so good in a category, it puts everybody else out of business. So I want you guys to start thinking about the things that Mick said. Think about things that could happen, that could be done, and then figure out ways to do it. It makes life so much more fun, doesn't it?
It does. You guys have any questions about any of the stuff that I did or I talked about?
Can a coach come up here and grab this and hand a mic to whoever? You guys have any questions for Mick?
Yeah, shoot.
Yep. All the way in the back.
Australia. All right, I'm going to ask you a question back. If you are going to have to be, because starting businesses are hard, growing businesses are hard. If you have to choose between someone who's really, really smart or really, really passionate and committed, who are you going to hire? The second. There's a saying that culture eats strategy or expertise for breakfast. Like, you always hire people who share the same values as you. You want to hire those people that are smart too, but they have to have those same values. They have to have that same drive. They have to have that same commitment, because especially in today's day of age, you can acquire knowledge really quickly. You can't acquire passion and drive. So I can become an expert with a couple keystrokes on any AI platform I need and quickly understand that, whatever that is I'm talking about. I can't do that and get the drive or the passion or the commitment. So, yeah.
Yesterday, I remember you said success is 85% people skills and 15% technical knowledge. For somebody in an engineering or laboratory kind of background, do you think it's the same way, or is it more technical oriented for you specifically?
So, anybody here parents in Hollywood, like make movies or things like that? Okay, it's kind of. All right, so imagine I wanted to make a Western, a cowboy film. Who am I going to hire? I'm going to hire people who understand that, right? Someone who's done it before. I'm going to hire expertise. Now I'm going to make a science fiction. Who am I going to hire? People who have done that before. Now I'm going to make a period piece, whatever it might be. What we do is, on a project-by-project basis, we will acquire the technical expertise, the people who are experts in that particular field. But our core team is always the people, the question you just asked, of people who just know how to get shit done, who know how to manage things and say, all right, I don't understand what we need to do, but explain to me, Mr. and Mrs. Technical Person. Okay, great. All right, when can we do that? What kind of budget do we need? All right, what's our deadline? And then we stick to the deadlines no matter what. That translates for whether you're in dental business or a business inventing things for people who are blind or Parkinson's or whatever. It's about having a vision of what you want it to do, surrounding yourself with expertise and mentors and people who want to see you succeed, and then just sticking with it, keeping your word to yourself. Like, you guys know the word integrity? How often do you use the word integrity? Probably not very often. People don't use that word very often. But when you keep your word to yourself, when you say, I'm going to do this, and then you let it slide, you're like, I'm going to miss it. I'm going to go to a friend's house, or I'm going to do this. you're breaking that integrity to yourself. And when you start doing that with other people as well, they start to see yourself in that light. So when you're building whatever you're going to build, keep your word to yourself and keep your word to other people. That, I would say, surrounding yourself with people who are passionate and living with integrity to yourself, those are two things that I think, all other things notwithstanding, if you have those two things, I'll make a bet on you that you're going to succeed.
And one other thing, too, just remember that every job that you have could lead to another job. And, you need to get along with the people that you're working with, because the guy that sits next to you in this job may be your future boss in your next job, I mean, that's a really, really important skill,
What were you going to say?
I'd like to clarify. So what you mean is that people skills is something in the person. You don't really develop that. Well,
No. You can develop anything. You can absolutely study that and develop that and get better at it. You 100% can. But when you're hiring someone and you're working with someone, look for that core in them that makes you want to work with them, or that they have that drive.
I see. So technical skills are something you can pick up while you're on the project. You pick up during the actual activity, while people skills is something you hire somebody with.
Well, I guess I'm not giving you the recipe. What I'm saying is, if you're are you talking about starting a company? Are you talking about, give me what you're talking about, and then we'll make it specific.
Starting a project specifically.
Okay. Surround yourself with people who believe in the project. Surround yourself with people who you believe in they live with integrity and they're going to keep their word. If they say they're going to do something, they will. And then the technical expertise, you can acquire that either through your own research or by bringing those experts or people who have that expertise, bring them onto the team. But if I have to pick a team of 5 people, I'm going to pick 3 to 4 people who I know who are just driven, who will relentlessly do whatever they can to achieve the goal. And then those other 1 or 2 people, I'll grab the experts.
Thank you.
No worries.
All right, let's do 2 more. Pass that over, please.
How do you find?
There you go.
How do you find your teams?
At first, you just through networking, just through talking to people. There's this crazy phenomenon that if you're looking for something, you'll start to see it. It's called, there's actually a thing in science called the Bader-Meinhof thing. So if I said to you, I'm looking for a green pencil. None of you has anyone thought about a green pencil today? I'm guessing none of you have woke up today and thought about green pencil. Now I've said green pencil to you, there's a really good chance that you guys in the next couple of days might see a green pencil or a green pen or something like that because it's deposited in your head, right? So when we're hiring, we start to look and say to people, hey, Bill, I'm looking for some people like this. Do you know anybody? And Bill's like, I don't, but I'll keep that in mind. When he says that, I know because he's going to be at lunch or he's going to be playing pickleball or whatever you're going to do. And then someone's going to be like, hey, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to talk to my friend Mick. So it's about speaking about it and talking about it and emailing about it and posting about it as much as possible, because then people want to contribute. That's something you guys got to remember. People want to contribute. People want to help you out, but they want to help people out that they know are really, really trying. So if you're like, hey, I'm building this team, do you know anybody? And if they say no, I don't, what do? Okay, all right, see you later. No, you're like, no worries. Hey, do you know someone? Hey, do you know someone? Do you know someone? And all of a sudden that momentum builds and people want to help passionate people. Make sense?
It's true. I'll tell you something funny. Right before I came in here this morning, I got a text message from Zoya Shams. She was a LEAP coach for years and years and years, went on, became a dentist. She just graduated dental school, and she just sent me a text message, say, hey, Dr. Bill, I just got married, and I want to go to ortho school. Do you know any orthodontists that, can maybe write me a letter of recommendation? Well, Brian Degoni is the grandson of Dr. Arthur Degoni, who was one of the most famous orthodontists in the world, who is also the dean of my dental school. And Brian and I are very close. He works at Rodeo Dental. So I just connected Brian and Zoya, and he's writing a letter for her, like, boom. So networking is the greatest thing, and that's why this mentor workshop that we're going to do is so important. And the people that you meet here this week can really help you with your life, with your career, and everything else.
I love that example. Do you guys know the saying, in life you get what you deserve? Do you guys believe that? No, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you ask for, and you get what you work for. You don't get what you deserve.
What's the most powerful 3-letter word in the English language, people?
You guys say that? Yeah, you got to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys are religious, but there's a verse in the Bible, and it doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not, but it's ask and you shall receive. If you ask for it, there's a chance for you to get it. If you don't ask for it, 100% guaranteed you will not get it, because no one knows you want it. You got to ask.
Did you see that yesterday? I tell you, successful people do the same stuff. They live by the same rules, and you just have to copy genius. That was number 1 on your top 20. Let's do one last question. Over here. You can yell it out. Okay, when starting a production company from scratch, what is one mistake you never want to make and one thing you should absolutely do?
Whew. Okay. Do you want to be in production? Nice. Then you're perfect. You're perfect. Amazing. Yeah. All right, well, so first of all, let's take this offline, and I will give you whatever advice you want on the animation. That was 15 years ago for me, because I started Non-Impossible Labs after, but I'll give you whatever advice. So let me make it kind of general, and then we can go specific. You got my email, and I can give you my number. You can just find me right afterwards. I would say the number 1 biggest mistake when you're starting any company is complacency. Is thinking that what you're doing is like you got it totally figured out, and like we're good, let's go out, we're good, we're done, we don't need to be. You have to always, you hear those footsteps behind you. They're coming behind you. And it might be a change in technology. When I started animation, my animation and design company, everybody did things manually. If you're doing anything on a computer manually right now, you're going to be out of a job in no time. But what can't you, especially in production and creativity, what can't AI do? It can't be human. It can't be emotional. It can't be compassionate. It can't be. So just always think, like, whatever you're doing, be always, how can I evolve it? How can I develop it? And that's just not animation. That's anything that you're doing. It's gonna change. Life is a progressive evolution and change of everything. I'm saying all these things, and I guarantee you've said these on stage, but do you know when Henry Ford is the guy who invented the first car? And one of the things that they called them horseless carriages, because everybody was getting around with a horse and a carriage behind it. And he said, if you would have asked people what they wanted in terms of their transportation to get around, do you know what they would have said? Faster horses. And he said, no, there's a new way to do things. I'm going to come up with something that doesn't need horses. And he invented the car. So just always, I don't like the way that this sounds, because it sounds negative, but there was the guy who founded one of the biggest tech companies in history called Intel, and they make microchips for computers. And he wrote a book, and his book was Only the Paranoid Survive. Now that sounds like you're kind of freaking out about, whatever conspiracy theories. No, the whole point was he was always thinking, like, what else can I do? What are my competitors doing that I'm not doing? What else can I do to be better? So whether it's a production business, whatever it is, there's always, I tell my kids this all the time, there's always someone who can, if in sports, that can jump higher or run faster. But there's not always someone who can work harder. And there's not always someone who can be thinking about, like, what else can I do? What else can I do? How can I evolve? What can I do different? So no matter what you're doing, if you've got that behind you, and you're okay with going into to one of the chapters in my book is fail, 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 succeed, repeat as necessary, right? So take those risks. If it fails, dust yourself off and then go get back in the ring again and do it again. Whether it's a production business or it's whatever you guys are going to do, you got to have that drive and you got to have that relentlessness. Cool?
Awesome. Let's give it up one more time for Mick.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, buddy.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks so much.